Hey guys, welcome back to r/AmIOverreacting. In this video, my parents asked me for $62,000 for my golden child sister's honeymoon. When I said no, they stole my credit card and overstepped all boundaries. Let me tell you about the dinner that changed everything and how a single credit card alert turned my entire family's world upside down. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled r/AmIOverreacting, Parents Stole My Credit Card to Pay $60,000 Honeymoon for Golden Child Sister. So I grew up in what I can only describe as a textbook narcissistic household. My parents treated my younger sister like she walked on water, while I was basically the family scapegoat from day one. Nothing I did was ever good enough, but my sister could literally set the house on fire and they would find a way to blame me for leaving matches around. My sister got a brand new car for her 16th birthday, while I had to work 2 jobs to buy my own beat-up Honda. She got full college tuition paid, while I took out loans that I'm still paying off. When she wanted to drop out junior year to find herself, my parents supported her and even funded a year-long backpacking trip through Europe. When I wanted to change my major, they threatened to cut off all support and called me irresponsible. The final straw came when I was 20 years old. My sister had gotten arrested for shoplifting expensive jewelry, and instead of facing consequences, my parents asked me to take the blame because you're older and can handle it better, and it would ruin her future. Well, I refused obviously, and they lost their minds. They called me selfish, ungrateful, and accused me of not caring about family. So then that night I packed everything I owned into garbage bags and left. And I've been low contact ever since. I moved across the country, built my own life, and only saw them maybe twice a year at most. Every interaction was strained and awkward with them, constantly guilt-tripping me about being distant, while simultaneously treating me like garbage whenever I did show up. My sister would make snide comments about my apartment, my job, my car, while my parents just smiled and nodded along. However, fast forward to now, I'm doing really well for myself. So I work in tech, make good money, own my own place, and I'm genuinely happy. My sister, on the other hand, has bounced from job to job, relationship to relationship, always with my parents bailing her out of whatever mess she creates. About 6 months ago, she got engaged to some guy she had been dating for like 3 months. I was not invited to the engagement party, which honestly was fine by me. But then the wedding planning started and suddenly my phone was blowing up with calls from my parents. At first they were trying the guilt angle like, "Your sister really wants you involved in the wedding. It would mean so much to the family if you participated. Can't you just put the past behind you for one day?" I told them I would attend the wedding but was not interested in being in the wedding party or helping with planning, but then came the money requests. They started small. Could I contribute to the rehearsal dinner? What about helping with flowers? Each time I said no, they would get a little more aggressive. My mom started sending me these long text messages about how disappointed she was in me, how I was being petty and holding grudges. Well, the breaking point came when they called me directly asking for $62,000 for the honeymoon. $62,000. Apparently my sister had her heart set on some luxury resort in the Maldives with private overwater bungalows, first-class flights, spa treatments and excursions that cost more than most people's annual salary. I actually laughed when my dad told me the amount. I thought he was joking, but no, they were completely serious. They explained that they had already paid for the wedding itself and were tapped out, but couldn't bear to disappoint my sister. And by the way guys, if I sound a little bit weird today, my apologies, but I got a wisdom tooth pulled yesterday and it was absolutely huge. Anyway, they figured since I was doing so well and did not have a family to support, I could easily afford it. When I said absolutely not, the real ugly side came out. My mom started screaming about how selfish I was, how I was ruining my sister's special day out of spite, and my dad chimed in saying that I owed it to them after everything they had done for me growing up. My sister got on the phone crying about how this was her dream honeymoon and I was destroying her happiness. I just hung up and blocked their numbers for a few days, but they kept finding ways to contact me, calling from different numbers, having relatives reach out, even showing up at my workplace once. It was harassment, plain and simple. Finally, about 3 weeks ago, my My mom called my aunt's phone and said that they wanted to meet for dinner to clear the air and work things out as a family. She sounded calmer, more reasonable, and said that they understood why I was upset and wanted to apologize. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet them at a restaurant downtown. The dinner started out surprisingly civil. They actually apologized for pressuring me about the money and said that they understood why I would be hesitant to help given our history. My dad even said he was proud of how successful I'd become and admitted that they had not always been fair to me growing up. I was suspicious but cautiously optimistic. Maybe they were finally ready to treat me like an actual family member instead of just a bank account. We talked for about 2 hours, and while it wasn't exactly warm and fuzzy, it felt like progress. Here's where everything went completely off the rails though. When the check came, I offered to pay since they had suggested the meeting was their way of making amends. However, my dad insisted on paying, saying it was the least they could do. I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, they were already standing up to leave. My dad said he had taken care of everything and we should do this again soon. I thought that was weird because the whole interaction took maybe a few minutes, but I didn't think much of it at the time. We said our goodbyes in the parking lot, and I actually felt somewhat hopeful about maybe rebuilding some kind of relationship with them, but that hope lasted exactly 4 days. I was at work when my phone started buzzing with alerts from my credit card company, fraud alerts, big ones. I checked my account and nearly had a heart attack. Someone had charged $62,437 to a luxury travel agency. The charge was pending, but it was definitely real. I called the credit card company immediately and explained that this was definitely some kind of fraud. They put a hold on my card and opened a dispute case, and then I called the travel agency. After being transferred around for 20 minutes, I finally got someone who could help me. It turns out someone had booked the exact honeymoon package my sister had described to me. The booking was made using my credit card info, and the package was set for dates right after my sister's wedding. When I asked for more details about who made the booking, they said they couldn't share that info due to privacy policies, but they could confirm that the booking was for a couple within the same last name as my sister. And well, I was absolutely livid. I still needed proof before I could do anything, so I called a lawyer immediately, and he walked me through what I needed to document everything properly. First, I requested all the documentation from the travel agency, booking confirmations, payment records, everything. Then I pulled my credit card statements and transaction histories. I also started documenting every interaction I'd had with my parents about the honeymoon money, but the smoking gun came from an unexpected source. My cousin, who I barely talked to but who was in my sister's wedding party, posted photos on social media from my sister's bachelorette party. In one of the photos, my sister was apparently showing off her honeymoon itinerary on a massive TV screen, bragging I suppose, clearly showing the resort name and dates that matched exactly what was charged to my card. The photo was timestamped from 2 days before our reconciliation dinner. Everything clicked into place. The whole dinner had been a setup. They had planned this from the beginning. My dad insisted on paying the check, the weird quick exit from the table. He must have grabbed my wallet from my jacket or something when I went to the bathroom. I'd been so focused on the actual conversation that I had not been paying attention to what was actually happening around me. I felt sick, not just because of the money, but because of how calculated and manipulative the whole thing had been. They had put on this whole performance about wanting to repair our relationship, and it was all just a con to steal from me. My lawyer friend advised me to file a report immediately, which I did. The detective assigned to my case was actually really helpful and took it seriously right away. Apparently, family credit card fraud is more common than I thought, and they had specific protocols for investigating it. The investigation moved surprisingly well. The travel agency cooperated fully once they realized they had been part of a fraud scheme. They provided all the booking details, including the email address used to make the reservation, my mother's, phone records of the booking calls, and even security footage from when my parents came in person to finalize some details. Meanwhile, my family had no idea I had discovered what they had done. My sister was posting constantly on social media about her upcoming dream honeymoon, even sharing countdown posts and photos of all the outfits she had bought for the trip. My parents were commenting on every post about how happy they were that she was getting her perfect honeymoon. Furthermore, the wedding happened right on schedule. I did not attend, obviously, but I saw the photos all over social media. It looked like an expensive affair, easily $30,000 or $40,000 based on the venue and decorations alone. They had clearly spent a fortune on the wedding itself, which made their theft of my money even more infuriating. 2 days after the wedding, my sister and her new husband were supposed to fly out to the Maldives, but instead, they got a very different kind of surprise. The police showed up at my parents' house at 6 in the morning with arrest warrants. The charges were identity theft, credit card fraud, and grand larceny. Since the amount was over $50,000, it was automatically a felony. My sister called me about an hour later, absolutely hysterical. Her honeymoon had been cancelled because the travel agency had been contacted by the police and informed that the payment was fraudulent. She was screaming about how I was ruining her life and destroying her marriage before it even started. I told her she should take it up with our parents since they were the ones who committed the actual crime. When she said she had no idea they had stolen my credit card info, I asked her how she thought they had suddenly come up with $62,000 when they had told me just weeks earlier that they were broke after paying for her wedding. She hung up on me. Well, my parents both got arrested and spent the night in jail before making bail. The arraignment was set for the following week. My dad tried calling me from jail, but I didn't accept the phone charges, and when they got out, they immediately started their campaign of trying to get me to drop the charges against them. First, they tried to guilt trip me. How could I send my own parents to prison over money? And then they tried minimization. It wasn't really stealing since they were family, and families should support each other. Then they tried anger. I was a vindictive, petty person who was apparently destroying the family over a grudge, and none of it worked. I refused to speak to them directly and just referred them to my lawyer. The legal process took about 6 months from start to finish, and during that time my parents tried everything they could think of to get me to drop the case. They had relatives call me, they tried to get my boss involved somehow, they even showed up at my apartment building once before I threatened to call the police on them for harassment. My sister's attitude was the most infuriating part about the whole thing though. She acted like she was the real victim in all of this. According to her social media posts and what relatives told me, her story was that I was a bitter, jealous person who could not stand to see her happy. She painted the whole thing like I was prosecuting our parents over some petty family squabble rather than a serious felony. She started a GoFundMe to try to raise money for a replacement honeymoon, claiming her family was being torn apart by a vindictive sibling. It raised about $300 before GoFundMe took it down for violating their terms of service. The court case itself was pretty straightforward. The evidence was overwhelming. Credit card records, booking confirmations, email trails, even security footage from the restaurant showing my dad handling my wallet. My parents' lawyer tried to argue that it was a misunderstanding, that they thought they had permission to use the card, but that fell apart pretty quickly when the prosecution showed that they'd been pressuring me for weeks to pay for the honeymoon, and I had repeatedly refused. In the end, my dad pled guilty to felony, identity theft, and grand larceny. He got 18 months in prison and 5 years probation. My mom pled guilty to conspiracy charges and got 12 months in prison plus probation. They were also ordered to pay full restitution, which came to about $70,000 once we included all the fees and interest charges, and the restitution was the part that really hit them where it hurt. They had to sell their house to pay me back, and my sister was furious about this because apparently she had been expecting to inherit that house someday. She blamed me for taking away her future and destroying the family legacy. However, the story does not end there. While my parents were dealing with their legal issues, I decided my sister needed to learn some consequences too. She had not been charged with anything because there was no evidence that she knew the money was stolen, but she had certainly benefited from the crime and had been completely unapologetic about the whole thing. So I did some digging and found out that she had quit her job right before the wedding, apparently planning to live off her new husband's income while she focused on being a newlywed. Her husband seemed like a decent enough guy who had gotten caught up in my family's drama through no fault of his own. So I decided to give him some info he might find useful. I compiled everything: the months of pressure tactics, the fake reconciliation dinner, the fraudulent charges, court documents, just everything. I put it all together in a clear timeline that showed exactly how manipulative and calculating my family had been throughout the whole process. Then I mailed it to my sister's husband at his workplace with a note explaining that I thought he should know the truth about how his honeymoon had really been funded and what kind of family he had married into. A week later, my sister's social media went completely dark. No more posts about married life, no more photos, nothing. I heard through relatives that her husband had moved out and was filing for an annulment. Apparently, he had been horrified to learn that his honeymoon had been paid with stolen money, but more than that, he had been upset that my sister had known their financial situation was precarious since she had quit her job, but had still insisted on a $62,000 honeymoon. He felt like she had been dishonest about their financial compatibility and had involved him unknowingly in a family crime. The marriage annulment went through pretty quickly since they'd only been married for a few months and had no shared assets or children. My sister tried to calm me after her husband left, alternating between crying and screaming. She blamed me for destroying her marriage and said that I'd gone too far. I told her that I had not destroyed anything. I had simply made sure her husband had all the facts about who he had married. What he chose to do with that info was up to him. She has now moved back in with my relatives since she cannot afford her own place without a job or a husband to support her. My parents are both in prison and their house has been sold. My sister is single, unemployed and living on someone's couch. Meanwhile, I am doing great. The restitution money actually put me ahead financially since I'd already disputed the charges with my credit card company and gotten a refund. I used some of the extra money to take my own vacation, a nice reasonable trip that I paid for with my own money like a normal person. I've been completely no contact with all of them since the court case ended. I changed my phone number, moved to a new apartment and made it clear to the extended family that I don't want any updates about what's happening with my parents or sister. Some relatives think that I went too far, especially with getting my sister's marriage annulled. Or annulled, I guess. They say I should have been satisfied with my parents going to prison and that I didn't need to destroy my sister's life too, but here's the thing. I did not destroy her life. She chose to participate in a scheme to steal from me. She chose to quit her job and plan an extravagant lifestyle that she couldn't afford. She chose to be completely unrepentant about the whole thing and paint herself as a victim. All I did was make sure her husband knew the truth about what he was getting into. So Reddit, am I overreacting here? Should I have just let the whole thing go after my parents went to prison? Was I wrong to make sure my sister faced some consequences too, even if they were just a natural result of her husband learning the truth about her character? I don't feel guilty about any of it, but everyone keeps telling me that I should. I feel like I was the victim here and not them. They stole from me, lied to me, manipulated me, and then tried to make me out to be the villain when I held them accountable. But maybe I'm too close to the situation to see it clearly. Let me know what you think. By the way, a lot of people are asking for an update about what happened after everything's settled, and I will post one with more details about how things have played out long term later. And yeah guys, let me know what you think about this story in the comments. Do you think OP was an a-hole here, or did he do the right thing? And I would say probably his entire family is absolutely awful, and they are definitely champions at gaslighting and victim blaming. Honestly, if I had a family like this, I would go no contact with every single one of them. Either way, let me know what you think in the comments and don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you want to support me. Now let's read some comments and then the update to the story. Comment number 1 said, "Not the a-hole at all, they stole from you." That is not overreacting, that's called consequences for criminal behavior. The fact that your sister is facing consequences too is just karma catching up. You did not destroy her marriage, her lies and entitlement did. Comment number 2, wait, let me get this straight. So your parents literally committed identity theft and credit card fraud for $62,000 and people think you are overreacting for pressing charges? What planet are these people living on? I guess some of them live on planet Reddit. If a stranger did this to you, everyone would be calling for their heads. Blood relation doesn't give people a free pass to commit felonies. Comment number 3, you're the a-hole. Look, what your parents did was obviously wrong, but you took this way too far. Having them arrested? Sure, I get it, that is theft, but actively sabotaging your sister's marriage by sending those documents to her husband? That's pure vindictive behavior on your part. Your sister did not steal from you, your parents did. She had no way of knowing they used your credit card, and you admitted that there was no evidence she knew it was stolen money, so you decided to play God and educate her husband about what family he married into. That is not justice, that's you being petty and cruel. You keep saying you just gave him info, but come on, you knew exactly what you were doing. You wanted to hurt your sister because you felt she didn't suffer enough consequences. That is not your call to make. Her marriage failing because of your interference has nothing to do with the original crime. Also, the way you write about about your family screams some missing reasons. Nobody gets completely cut off and scapegoated for absolutely no reason. And by the way guys, this commenter certainly deserves an award as well in victim blaming. He's almost as good as OP's family. What a tool. Anyway, I'm betting there's a lot more to your family dynamics that you're conveniently leaving out to make yourself look better here. You got your money back, your parents went to prison, case closed. Everything after that was just you being vindictive. Grow up and get therapy instead of destroying people's lives for revenge. You're the a-hole big time. Comment number 4, everyone sucks here and this whole family is toxic as hell. Your parents are obviously terrible for stealing $62,000 from you. That is felony level awful and they deserve prison time, and your sister sucks for being a spoiled brat who quit her job, expecting to live off of a luxury lifestyle funded by stolen money. Even if she didn't know it was stolen, she knew her parents were broke but somehow magically got $62,000. But you? You suck too. What your parents did warranted legal action, but what you did to your sister was pure petty revenge. She didn't commit the crime, but you decided that she needed to be punished anyway, so you deliberately sabotaged her marriage. Sending those documents to her husband was not about giving him information, it was about making sure she suffered consequences that you felt she deserved. That is not justice, that is vigilante nonsense. And yeah, your family treated you like crap growing up. That sucks and I'm sorry, but that doesn't give you the right to play judge, jury and executioner in everyone's lives. You could have walked away after the court case, gone no contact and lived your best life, but instead you chose to keep engaging in their drama to hurt them even more. This whole post reads like a "Look how I destroyed my awful family." And honestly, you all deserve each other. Get therapy, all of you. Everyone sucks here. Including the guy who wrote the comment, he sucks too. Anyway, update to the story. Wow, I was not expecting my original post to get as much attention as it did. Thank you everyone who took the time to read and comment. The overwhelming support really helped me feel confident that I handled everything appropriately. A lot of people asked for an update about how things have played out in the long term, so here's where everything stands now, about 2 years after the whole mess went down. My parents both served their full sentences. My dad got out about 6 months ago and my mom got out about 3 months before that. They've both struggled to find decent employment with felony convictions on their record, which I honestly don't feel bad about. They are living in a small apartment now and apparently having a hard time making ends meet. I heard through the family grapevine that they initially tried to blame me for their financial struggles, telling relatives that I had ruined their lives over money and that they were too old to start over. But most of the extended family saw right through that. It turns out when you steal $62,000 from your own kid, people tend to lose sympathy for your sob story pretty quickly. My sister has had a much harder time than I expected though. The annulment was just the beginning of her problems though. Word got around about the whole situation. Apparently my ex-brother-in-law was not shy about telling people why their marriage ended. In a small social circle, that kind of reputation follows you around. She's tried dating a few times, but it never seems to work out. I'm guessing it is hard to explain why your previous marriage lasted 3 months and ended when your husband found out about your family that stole money for your honeymoon. She has also struggled to find steady work, partly because she's been out of the job market for a while, and partly because she's apparently developed a reputation for being dramatic and unreliable. Last I heard, she was working part-time at a retail job and still living with our aunt. She's tried to reach out to me a few times through social media and relatives, always with some variation of, "Don't you think we've all suffered enough?" But the answer is no, I don't think they've suffered enough. They have not suffered enough consequences, they've just experienced the natural results of their choices. The most satisfying part of all of this is how it has affected their standing in the extended family though. My parents used to be the center of all family gatherings, always holding court and playing up their martyrdom about having such a difficult son who didn't appreciate everything they had done for him. Now family events happen without them, and when they do attend, people are polite but distant. My sister used to be everyone's darling, the fun, spontaneous one who could do no wrong. Now she's the cautionary tale about what happens when you grow up thinking rules don't apply to you. Meanwhile, my life has been absolutely fantastic. I got a promotion at work partly because all the drama taught me a lot about staying calm under pressure and handling conflict professionally. I've also been in a serious relationship for about a year now with someone who comes from a normal functional family, which has been a revelation. The best part is how much mental energy I have now that I'm not dealing with their constant drama and manipulation. Actually, I did not even realize how much emotional bandwidth they were taking up until they were completely out of my life. I've had exactly zero regrets about any of the decisions I made. And the next one is another crazy Am I the A-hole story that is titled Am I the A-hole for telling my dad that I don't want him to marry his girlfriend? So my parents, both 46, got divorced 6 years ago, my mom remarried 3 years ago, and my dad has had a few girlfriends. His current girlfriend is the only one he has ever brought around. My mom has met her and likes her, and my sister idolizes her. She is nice and I don't dislike her. The actual problem though, she is 27, exactly 10 years older than me. To me, it is so weird. I don't understand why my dad wants to date someone so much younger than him. When he asked my sister and I if we were okay with him asking her to marry him, my sister was excited, but I wasn't. I told him I was not comfortable with this age gap and thought she was just a sugar baby. My dad explained that she has her own career, but said okay. Since that conversation, my dad has been really sad and the atmosphere in his house has changed. His girlfriend has not been by as frequently either. I feel kind of bad because I want my dad to be happy. So Reddit, am I the a-hole here? Edit, this blew up bigger than I expected it to and found its way to my dad. Now he wants to have a talk this weekend. And yeah guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Do you think OP is being an a-hole here, or is she doing the right thing? Let me know what you think in the comments. Comment number 1 said, not the a-hole. I think it's fine for you to be honest with your dad that his behavior and choices have damaged your opinion of him and made you uncomfortable. If he is genuinely damaging your views of him by being a dirty old man who goes for the 20 years younger girls, that is info that he needs to know. I'm super curious what his answer would be if you asked how he would react to you dating a 36-year-old, since that's the same age gap. However, there are consequences since everything has consequences, one of which is that his girlfriend is probably gonna dump him because if she wants marriage, they are no longer compatible, and for him to be sad about that. And that is perfectly fine. Hopefully he's not too sad for too long and picks a more age-appropriate partner next time. Do be aware that this head slash has the potential for a different sort of consequence, him deciding that he would rather have her than your approval. Be cautious in the future because sometimes, most times, when people are asking for your blessing, they really are not asking, they've already decided what they want to do, so you have to decide if jamming a wrench in that is worth it. And then someone replied to that comment by saying, seems a bit disingenuous to say that 17 to 36 is the same thing as 27 to 46. She's a mature adult for one with her own career and previous relationship experience. Nobody seriously thinks that a 28-year-old dating a 9-year-old would be the same as a 96-year-old dating a 77-year-old. Ultimately, OP is entitled to her opinion, but they need to decide the extent to which I want him to be happy is really true when it comes up against her own personal opinion about what other people should do. I say this because OP has not expressed that it affects her in any way, nor is she acting out of concern for her dad. She's not a gold digger, they get on and she likes her, etc. It is purely because she thinks it is weird. If OP still wants to hold this view, despite knowing it makes him sad and is affecting the atmosphere, then that's up to her though. I don't want to sound too critical of your comment though. In general, I think it summarizes things well. Her opinion is her opinion, but expressing our opinions does have consequences. Comment number 2, you're the a-hole. It is one thing to not be a fan of the ages, it's another to effectively call her a sex worker, offensive to both her and your father. Comment number 3, you're the a-hole for calling her a sugar baby if she is actually not. Frankly, her age should not be your problem, she's been an adult for nearly a decade. Comment number 4, for everyone saying you're the a-hole, he asked her opinion, she gave it, she's been staying out of it, but she's just as entitled to her opinion as anyone else, and if he doesn't want to hear it, then he shouldn't ask. She is 17, as a mom of teens and someone who's been driving school buses full of teens for well over a decade, teens are not exactly Captain Stoic, so he knew good and well something was wrong. He should have asked earlier if he was worried about it or waited another year or two until she was legally an adult so she doesn't have to live in it. Once she moves out, it's a lot easier to ignore, but having an opinion does not make her selfish, it just makes her human. And now guys, we will read the update to the story. So my original post blew up and managed to find its way to both my dad and his girlfriend, her name is Jenny, and Jenny thought it was really funny while my dad was mortified. Some of the comments were really mean towards my dad, which made me a little sad. He is a great dad and trying his best. As a whole, the comment section had me thinking about my father's love life too much, and I know now not to air my parents' business on the internet. To clear up some confusion though, my dad was not asking for permission or something, he was simply asking how my sister and I would feel about him remarrying. As for the actual update, my dad sat me down and explained he was not upset over me or what I said, he was upset that he did not know I was uncomfortable sooner. He told me that him and Jenny met at a conference and that they both thought the other was lying about their age. Jenny thought my dad was younger and Jenny thought that Jenny was older, apparently because of how high up in her career she is. It was nice to hear that dad was not intentionally going for women in their 20s and that Jenny was the first girl he dated that young. Jenny took me out solo for a matcha the other day too, and she said she never wanted to be a mom and doesn't want kids, and she said that she liked that dad already was a dad to older kids and didn't want more, and that's why she kept dating him. She said she doesn't want me to think of her as a stepmom, just a cool adult. I apologized for calling her a gold digger and she said it's not a problem. Apparently she could see why I would have thought that and is not upset. Jenny wants the internet to know that she's about to turn 28 in a few days. Anyways, my dad's not really upset with me, I still like Jenny and everything has been cleared up and I'm not really uncomfortable anymore. Thanks Reddit. And before we end the video, let's read one last super amazing petty revenge story that you don't want to miss. This one is titled, "Dude decided to have a full volume speaker convo in the shared space. Well, let's give him a taste of his own medicine." So I was sitting all quiet and charging my phone at this hotel lobby. Old dude decides to come to next bench and have a convo on speaker at max volume. I first moved to a table far away, but I still heard him. That's how loud he was. I decided that F it, I was sitting there and I'm done with people blasting their phones. I played Kill Switch Engage on half volume. Didn't want to bother the staff, but they definitely looked at me. It was high enough to disturb his call. I think he turned to say something like I could not hear and I just kept staring at my phone. He turned down the call and then I also turned off the music. Do I like to bring myself to their level? No, I usually shush people, but this one didn't get it. And yes, him ending the call and turning his phone volume down seems like he got the message. Edit, they called him again and he answered like a normal person, phone to ear, you know, the way people used to talk without a problem. And then a user in the comments shared his own experience with people like this and said, on the train, a woman next to me started a video call and is almost shouting. After about 5 minutes, I start playing rock music on my phone at max volume. She then glares at me and tried to continue her call. She gave up and I instantly stopped the music. The guy sitting opposite me starts to laugh and then gets the death stare too. Also, someone was asking, when the hell did talking on speaker become the norm? And yeah guys, indeed, that is a very good question to ask. I have no answer for that one. Either way, thank you so much for watching. I will see you again tomorrow.